With this, we will light the chalice and begin our formal service. We light this flame as a symbol of the new life, enlightening our way, as a symbol of the warmth in every human heart.
Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to share our strength in fellowship. Thus do we covenant.
As we are gathered in this time and space of connecting safely from afar and yet together, may we recall the connections forged between people. It is one of the gifts and the necessities of humanity and our relationship to the world and worlds around us, from the smallest plant and life forms to the largest trees and animals. We are connected. We are together. We are united and uniting. Come, let us worship and reflect here together.
The opening hymn is number 134 in the hymnal. For those of you who have a hymnal at home, it is called Our World is One World. Now, we enter a period of time in our service that's really special to me. One, because it's an opportunity for each one of us to share what is going on in our lives. But two, because we have such a wonderful fellowship that allows us to share these intimate feelings, these concerns, and these joys that each one of us have. So as we reflect upon what's happening in our lives, please share with each other what is happening in your life. And now, Mary Jo, you can hear once more. Amanda Gorman.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild reconcile and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
My pleasure to introduce, and I don't really need to introduce her because Lex has been with us many, many times, but Lex Cady-White, who is a chaplain. She's now studying she was a chaplain at Lakeland University and now in the Aurora system, I think, and is also studying to get a master's in public health. And it's just wonderful to have her back together again. She's going to speak to us about power and responsibility. And the subtitle is Power is Part of Every Relationship from All Parties. We can use it in a variety of ways for bad or for good. The measure of our character is in how we wield that power and acknowledge our responsibility to ourselves and to each other. Sounds like she wrote Amanda's speech. Anyway, welcome, Lex. It's so good to have you back again.
Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back with you guys. And it's lovely to get to see everybody's face. My church is doing virtual services, but it's all pre-recorded, so I like getting to do this live. May the words that have been broken and shared for our country, for all our people that have been, that are, and will be reverberate in all of our chests and better inform us of the power-filled and powerful beloved community we are called to live and to love in. May we all participate in the purpose, in the purpose and power we each have to better build, contribute, and sustain our work in progress of a union, our experiment called America, our land that is for me and you. May we know it, may we seek it, may we own it, may we respect it. Ashe, amen, blessed be. In all the bridges we've made, that is the promise to glade the hill we climb if only we dare. And yes, we've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it. Power in and of itself, left or right, good or bad, darkness or light, power is both and so much more than we often give it and ourselves and this world credit for. We learn from a young age the power of our words or phrases. When we first utter the I hate you to the adults in our lives that we love the most and see them crestfallen. As we get older, we learn the power of simple letters in the form of grades, A's, C's, and F's, and are told it means something about our intellect or our character. And later, we learn of the numbers that we are known by and identified with, the 3-4 pattern of our security and our professional socializing. We see the power of words and actions of our peers as we lift up or tear down those around us, those who reflect ourselves back, or what happiness we cannot reach or claim to know, or the pain that we can give to push on the pain that we feel. Yes, power is something within and around each of us. From our first steps and stumbles to quotes and stutters and declarations. We feared at its inception, we did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power. We inherit power over and power with. The power through of our foremothers and fathers and others, and it is lofty. From the moment we realize the inheritance of the good and the bad, we realize we must do better, do more, and do it credit and honor. We must be accountable for how we benefit from our power, from the power of one soul at the expense of another, and the short and long term ripple effect that it can have on the individual and community, and how it can erode a person's sense of self and their health. We must find a way to bridge the gap that is and learn to collaborate, to share the mic, to share space, to share power. The potential is all around us. Listening as well as speaking, affirming as well as applauding and taking space and knowing when it is not our space to take. We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. We must be benevolent but bold, fierce and free. And to do so, we need to empower and disempower. We need to affirm and condemn what we realize needs to be and what need never be or see the light of day again. If we see someone is making a mistake that we have done before, we must share our wisdom to make their journey a little better. If not, we are forced to watch them trip and fall over pitfalls that may not be theirs to have. I am not suggesting we swoop in and unnecessarily, condescendingly, or patronizingly protect people from the world, but rather, if people can learn from our trips and quips, we should try to let them. We are all part of the human race, and far too often we let others lose so we can do what we think is winning, not realizing that the finish line is there for each of us at every time, all of the time, and any time. We need not rush to it or from it. We must recognize what steps we make on our journey towards it. That is what makes up our character, our strengths, our purpose, our reason for being and breathing. We will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. For truth be told, one of the more powerful realities is that we are all and have all been wounded by this life, by what is expected of us, even what is not expected of us. To be held accountable, to be challenged, to be allowed the privilege to be who and how we are. We can be wounded and wondrous. Our scars are badges. They tell the stories of who we are, where we have been, and the different journeys our bodies and souls have taken themselves on. The things that leave their marks are sometimes ever-present scars. People identify as part of who or what they are, and the only ones that we ourselves can observe more closely and notice. There is power and wisdom in sharing some of our wounds and scars on the battlefield of life, love, and power. And those must only be shared when we are ready, when we are safer or safe enough. They cannot be shared before or from us. Like a child or pet being potty trained, it would be easy if we could just gesture to the outdoors or toilet. Kids are complicated. People need time. They need to feel comfortable, to engage, to be present, to feel secure, and to be. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. We all come from different roads, journeys, and stories, and with varying calls and purposes. What matters is we try. We won't hit it right every time. When we do, we may not know how. Sometimes knowing even why will elude us. We each have a purpose, at least one, and more likely many. In the same way, we each have a call. We have a role to play in the evolution of life and the revolution towards change. Some of us are called to the front lines, to barrel through, to keep house, to watch the children, to help people relax, to distract them, to comfort and care for the weary and those who worry if they are wicked. Some are called to read, to teach, to write, to make art, to question, to answer, to distract, and to make contracts and bonds and policies. Some are to care for the animals, for the plants, for themselves, for their families, for a better tomorrow, for those who've paved the way. So help us escape into their dreams, into their art, into the music of life, in the struggle and the sport of this life. And some will always have questions, and some will always seek answers and see answers and question them yet again. When day comes to step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid, we step into our spaces when the time is right, when the stars are aligned, when we can't help but be part of something, of change, of the re-engage, of the rearrange. When we are ablaze with passion, it leaves our fingers, it is left in our footprints, it is all around. It glows in one another when and where they are living or speaking their truth, when they are at their truest state or most authentic form. It is a bit of magic. It is a bit ordinary. It is extraordinary by nature. It is magic because its vibrations can be vast and broad and deep and moving. It's powerful in all the ways that we can fathom and so much more. It is ordinary as well because it is our truths. It is our reality. It is the dance of the aha and the sighs. I started this with the words of our powerful youth poet laureate because she was engaging and emblazed with her power. And she was heard. She was seen. She had a platform. She transformed, and yet she was ever the same. When people live into their power in and with and because of, it can inspire. It is a beautiful type of power that is not over and not disempowering to others. It is a gift. And to share that as we see and as we perceive cause many people to feel and embrace and be embraced by the hope of better, of the times that we have known. Her hope is real, authentic, and it is accountability in motion. It is brutally honest and tenderly loving. It is a divine dance and the tension of whether people know it or not. That is what is so moving. It is the content of her words and the process of her sharing them. And as she closed us with a challenge, I shall attempt one as well. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we brave enough to be it. Let us use our power to empower, to re-empower, to move forward, both together in community, in unity, that does not silence, fear, or loathe diversity and difference. Too often people say we need, or people claim to need to downplay the variety and to find unity. And yet, when we look at the animal kingdom, there are groups alike. There are some cats that you have as pets, and there are some that are like the tigers and the kings of the zoo. There are fish that are golden, and there are gigantic whales, both in the water and vastly different. All are animals. And when you have a rainbow that has the bold and hold of multiple colors, vibration of waves of reflection that look different depending on where you have the pleasure of seeing it, we do not say, well, it's all green or it's all red. That does not take away from the rainbow, the variations of the colors, the vibrations of the waves. It does not downplay one cat or water-bound life form from another. The variety is part of the powerfulness of its beauty. We must see it, or rather be present to it. We need to be it and embody it. We must be bold and brave and hopeful and angry and powerful people because we are marching, we are yelling, we are writing, we are axing, We are teaching, dancing, singing, playing for all of our lives. And that is the most powerful thing of all, each other, ourselves, all living things, great and small, microscopic and massive. Let us see it, let us be it, let us embody it, let us foster it, let us embolden it and empower it. Ashe, amen, blessed be.
What a wonderful morning it has been. Just not only were we once again treated to Amanda, but I think the things that Lex shared with us just augmented, reinforced for all, and what an obligation we have to use that blessing to help others. All of us, how important it is and how blessed we are.
Lex, do you have any, are you aware of the 8th principle?
I didn't know you guys had an 8th principle.
This is the 8th principle. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a beautiful have an 8th principle. So I was a Unitarian Universalist, as some of you guys might know, for about a decade before I switched teams, sadly, to the United Church of Christ. So I did not know there had been a 8th principle. Oh, I see a hand from Benita.
Looking, I just thought of, it's taken a bit to absorb your wonderful words, Alex. But when you're talking about benevolence and the variety and diversity, and I had a sense from what you were saying that there's room to honor, all things, the this and that, and what is like us, what is not like us, and explore and investigate and be awed and be in the wonder of the variety, and that it isn't an either or, it's an either and. So thank you.
I know
so much
for me, and I don't know, I'm from Massachusetts, but I know for me growing up, a lot of what I was taught about difference was bad. From a young age, I always embraced that difference had to be good because it was always referred to me and my family as the only Black family in a lot of places. So I just decided it was good. And I remember a lot of what people would say was, when we focus on our differences, we can't have unity. And I always found that to be very problematic because I am so different on a lot of different levels to a good chunk of people, type of thing. And I always found that to be a problematic thing, both because it silences and tells people they can't be who they are because they're too much, type of thing. And we are all so vastly different in a variety of ways that people can't see or fully experience if they don't open their eyes and hearts and souls to the possibilities. So, yeah.
I like your image of the rainbow, which would not be so beautiful if it were just blue or just green, or we are beautiful because we are multiple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And certainly, if there is ever, if there are some silver linings related to the last 4 years, particularly the last few months and weeks, it has been that the differences have been highlighted, and we all need to learn how to speak to others, respecting them, working with them, doing everything we can to be as unified where it's important, but to as accepting where differences must prevail.
Yeah.
Any news or any comments from the people in Arizona who get the award for being the furthest away?
Actually, I have a question. So, when we talk about inclusiveness and accepting diversity and the differences between us, I think we tend to generalize about the good aspects of everybody, but what is the position we take? And I'm not saying we should not include these people. What I'm saying, what is the position? How do we position ourselves in relationship to the people who stormed the White House?
Yeah, I think part of respecting one another is acknowledging when we step out of bounds, when we do something that's inappropriate. And I think by naming them as being domestic terrorists, that's part of how we hold them accountable and respect their worth and dignity instead of letting them out of it, because we don't let ourselves out of things. If we make a mistake, we tend to dwell on it for far too long. And I think part of it is the acknowledgement. One of the things that I've started to do more readily in this burgeoning year has been to say that I understand that you have your opinions and you're entitled to them. And in this sacred space of my house or my home or my office, hate speech of any kind, problematic speech about any types of identities is not something that you can say or talk about in my space because this space is sacred to me, type of thing. And I think it's important to hold each other accountable, and I've been trying to better do that. I do diversity, equity, and inclusion training. I've been doing it for over a decade, and I'm teaching a continuing education course at UW Green Bay, actually starting in a couple weeks. And one of the things I have found is that we don't help anyone on the journey by essentially placating them or telling them that it's okay to believe in an oppressive or problematic way. We can acknowledge that that's what they believe in, that that's the truth that they experience. And we need to hold them accountable that the reality is a truth that oppresses our brother is not a truth we should ethically and morally hold in the same weight. It's one thing to say that I see this as being orange on my stole. And there's another thing to say that because I'm wearing a stole and no one else is, I am superior. It might be an opinion, but it's not really a helpful opinion, and it's pretty problematic. It doesn't make people feel comfortable to say something like that. It doesn't, and it's not a reality. And it might be something that somebody knows or feels in their heart of hearts. And we don't have to share every blessed thought that we have. I think sometimes people assume that because we think it or feel it, it is always acceptable to share. And we tell kids that that's not okay. They can't kick and scream all the time, though they want to. I have a 3-year-old and they want to all of the time. But we learn as we get older to express ourselves in different ways. And what we try to teach children is also what we need to remind ourselves is if our actions are harmful to another person, then we need to rethink our actions, our thoughts and our beliefs and what we understand to be the truth, we can still hold. But if our actions and our deeds are at the expense of another person, then we need to take pause and reevaluate and reassess.
Thank you so much, Lex. Let us continue with our service and the singing of the closing hymn, number 121 in our hymnal.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves the mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from the spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, we've come build a land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Words. If today you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another, that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace.
Shalom Chaverim, Shalom Chaverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom. Goodbye, my friends, be safe, my friends, have peace, till we meet again, have peace, have peace. Goodbye, my friends, be safe, my friends, be safe, my friends, have peace, till we meet again, have peace, have peace. Shalom Chaverim, Shalom Chaverim, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, 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 Shalom, Shalom, Shalom.
Thank you. Go in peace. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for sharing this hour with us. And we look forward to being together in a break room if you have the time and the inclination. Thank you, Lex. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Kim, and everybody who was with us today.